Hey, awesome. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Gimme Growth. Today we're here with Sujan Patel, who's the founder of Webprofits and also has his great blog, sujanpatel.com. He's known as a thought leader in the content marketing space, so we're really lucky to have him here with us today. He also has a highly acclaimed set of tools on contentmarketer.io, one of which we're actually getting a deal for, which we'll explain later. There's Connector, which does outbound emails through your Gmail, so they look very authentic and real. There's Notifier, which helps notify influencers you mention in your content that they've been mentioned. There's Marketer, which actually helps you find influencers too. So we'll talk about all those later. But he also runs his own course, which is a deep dive into content marketing, which is has great reviews as well. So Sujan, I'll let you take it from here, but thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for the kind intro and for having me. Super pumped to chat content marketing and really get into the key fundamentals to make it work. So let me just share my screen. So hang tight one second. So we're gonna go into the content marketing fundamentals today. Should be fun. And I'll go through, these are my fundamentals. These are what works for me. I've used this to really grow my businesses drastically. So, this is kind of my bio, but I've already got such a great introduction. I'll just go into what content marketing has done for me. So last year, content marketing actually helped me generate $1 million in consulting revenue. And that was about 96 leads that came from SujanPatel.com. And that's actually what caused me to start my second marketing agency, Webprofits. I also got about 10,000 new trials to my 3 SaaS products. And all of this came from producing around 300 or so articles, but actually the value and most of the traffic and leads actually came from about 10 or so articles. Actually 12, but the 10 that drove in like 95%. One of which was my ebook, 100 Days of Growth. And the other one when I launched Content Marketer.io was Content Marketing Playbook. So I'll walk through kind of some examples, but that is the power of content marketing. I really believe it because it works so well. And you can see producing 300 articles and 10 of them providing ROI. This year, I'm like, why not just produce just those 10 articles, or how do I create more of those 10 articles? So that's kind of what I've been focusing on this year, and also teaching guys like yourself how to leverage content marketing. So before I jump into everything, I'm going to share with you a couple case studies. First and foremost is whenIwork.com. I've told you about my success, but it's a little different when you're a marketer marketing to other marketers or business owners. Writing marketing copy is really easy, but whenIwork.com, it's this scheduling software for small business owners. Pretty boring industry. I mean, just talking about it, I'm falling asleep. But we generated some really, really interesting results. It generated from content marketing. We were able to build the blog up into a 750,000 monthly visitors. Also around 1,500 to 2,000 leads per month. We've kind of consistently were at the 1,700 mark, but we got it up to 2,000, and I believe since this is 2015, so since then it's been going up. Again, the same theme as I had for my personal results. 5 articles generated 80% of the traffic. We created content. Like this is not a result of only creating 10 articles or 5 or 6 articles. This is a result of creating content, but only a portion of them actually working. And just like my own personal results, the best performing content were tools, ebooks, interactive content. And yes, I do consider a tool or an ebook, even things you have to pay for, and something like an Excel spreadsheet or something you have to download a tool. It's still content marketing. Your content is not necessarily written words. Content just to get it defined for everyone so we're all on the same page. Content is any form of either visual, helpful information, like written content, audio. It could be an image. It doesn't matter, right? That kind of falls into the visual. A tool, whatever it is, that's content. You're delivering something of value, and you're using that to market to users. I think a lot of people forget, or your customers, your audience, and so on. So a lot of people forget that. Here's an example. We built this tool, right? So this is a tool. WhenIWork.com is a scheduling company. So we had this fancy product people can pay for to help schedule and manage your staff's time. It's not like a calendar schedule. This is like employee scheduling. Anyways, without going back to kind of not the snooze fest stuff, we created this template. It was an Excel template. Why did we create it? One, it had a lot of SEO and search volume, people searching for this. So there's SEO potential. Number two, it was a gateway into getting people to be familiar with our brand and scheduling their staff. So there's a little gateway in between somebody purchasing our product. So this tool generated about 12,500 visitors, and 50 new customers per month. Just this one tool. And it's this little landing page with a paragraph of content. In fact, like we never really quite got it to render right, and it still worked. Why? Because we spent a lot of time on promotion and building links and all the other stuff that makes content marketing work. And I'll get into that in a bit. The next thing is still with When I Work, an ebook. This thing generated 10,000 plus email opt-ins for us and over 130 links. Yes, of those 130 links, a lot of them were us creating more content to get those links and value, but as a result, it generated lots and lots of emails. And that was our goal. We wanted to use a book to go and get people interested in this and just be helpful for our audience, which are small business owners. Another thing we created was a resource. So this is a little bit more like interactive content. So people are looking for, what we figured out through our customer persona is that small business owners or customers were oftentimes first-time business owners. First-time business owners are overwhelmed. There's a lot of things. They might not have ever hired people in the past. So we created like a job description, performance review. That was really important. People were asking us in our support tickets like, hey, do you have any of these templates? And we finally, when I went through these support logs, I was like, holy crap, people are asking for this. We can easily make this. So these are all simple PDFs or Word docs that you can download to essentially to essentially do this. Whoa. Where were we? Going back to this. So yeah, we created these PDFs and these checklists, and the job description format just says like, here's the way you want to have it, and what's our goal here? We want to rank for HR resources, HR toolkit. We want to rank for employee onboarding checklists. We want to rank for these types of things. And each of these things have its own page, and it generated over 70,000 visitors. And it continues to generate traffic because a lot of this is ranking. And we leverage our existing customers. We sent this to all of our existing customers saying, it's completely free. You don't need to do anything. Just use it. And that helped generate some noise, some buzz. All right. Here's the last one for When I Work. It's creating epic content. You probably heard the word 10x content. I like to use the word epic content. We created lots and lots of content, but what we did is we went back and saw which ones performed well. And we made them better. These are two examples of making things better. In fact, if you go to or Google like 10 productivity hacks backed by science, and you go to our URL, you'll actually see these images are GIFs. So we went and made these images GIFs and just kind of, we kept increasing the bar of which we performed. And it worked incredibly well. We continued to update it. Both of these were written, one was in 2014 and the other one is in 2015. And we just updated it. So we just published it again as a new date, kept the URL short so we don't have to change it, and bam, it worked really, really well. 1 million views for team building games. Why? Because if you Google team building games, there's literally tens of thousands of people searching for this. And we looked at keyword search volume, so SEO plus content, and that's how we were able to generate these things. Now, remember, we did a lot of content promotion, which I'll get into later. But now that we've gotten that, let me give you one quick warning here. The warning is there is no shortcut. There's no fast way. There's no easy way to do content marketing. By electing to do content marketing, you are electing to do inbound marketing, which means you're putting yourself out there. You are doing all these things to help you get a foothold in inbound marketing or content marketing, build an audience. That doesn't necessarily mean they will convert. So it will take time. You can convert them, but electing to do inbound marketing is choosing the path leading with value first, building an audience, building trust, and then converting them. So it is slow. It does require a lot of hard work. And now I will proceed to the rest of my presentation. Oh, wait, one more thing. No magic. You can read all day long on Growth Hackers, Inbound. You've probably read about how I did these 7 things and it generated 5 million views. Look, that stuff works, but it wasn't the first 7 things that person did. And can you repeat them and get the exact same results? I don't know, but I'm going to share with you today how to get results using the fundamentals of content marketing and using it as a strategy, not as a tactic or quick win. So again, one more warning here. It's not about you. This is the biggest mistake most content marketers make and most businesses trying to leverage content marketing make, is that they make the content about them. They make what they talk about them. Frankly, nobody cares. Nobody cares about how many employees you have. Nobody cares about your new system release, about your product or some internal survey or data, probably because you don't have an audience. So first step is you need to create content of value, not of value to you. And when you create content of value that's helpful, you will then build an audience. So then you can start talking about yourself. My general rule of thumb is don't talk about yourself the first 3 months of content marketing. The second 3 months, you can talk about yourself 10 to 20% of the time. After that, never go above 25%. The next thing and second biggest mistake people make is consistency or the lack thereof. Most people write content and then they don't ever follow it up with something good, a better, or again, they may have tried content marketing for 2 months, but guess what? Content marketing takes 6 months to see any ROI, and the tail end of that 6 months is where you see that ROI. So months 5 and 6, expect all of your ROI to come from that. If you can't afford to wait 6 months for content marketing or for ROI, don't invest in content marketing yet. But that's better than wasting your money. At the end of the day, be consistent. Even if it's 1 article a month, it doesn't matter. Be consistent, predictable. That's how you're going to build an audience. So that being said, I want to share with you 2 quick hacks. 2 hacks that can help you shortcut all the things I talked about so far. It is going to be hard work in general, but these are 2 easy ways to not do as much hard work. Here's the lazy version. Instead of writing content, if you don't have the resources to commit fully to content marketing, curate content. You don't have to be the creator of the content to be the source of information. You can curate great content. Why? Because people don't have time to read 5,000 blog posts a month and find the 4 or 5 that are most relevant to them. You can spend your time in that section and leverage this. Ethan Shaw does a great job at this. Lots and lots of companies leverage this tactic. And by doing this, you still create an audience. You're still leveraging content marketing. It's just not your own. Here's the fast version. Instead of writing content for your own site, write content for other sites. So guest blogging is literally what I'm talking about here. If you're wondering, what is guest blogging going to do for me? Is it going to build my brand? Yes, because an existing audience sees it. I mean, a new audience sees your brand, and they have an existing audience, so they'll see it more than maybe your blog if you're just starting off, which nobody sees. So what you want to do is, what a guest posting can do for you is it can pull the audience of these blogs onto your blog, onto your site, onto your blog, and it'll make them relevant or aware of your brand. So, for example, I'm a content marketer. I mean, I do a lot more than just content marketing, but if I want to get more exposure in the content marketing world, I could produce more content, sure, but I'd rather publish on Content Marketing Institute, on Forbes. Obviously, Forbes is a great example of like how you get to, these large publications helping you, but let's say you don't have access to that. I want to publish at Content Marketing Institute. I want to publish to all of the other content marketing related blogs. Why? Because they have an audience. They did all this hard work. Content Marketing Institute generates, every article that you publish there generates tens of thousands of views over the lifetime of that article. Whereas on your site, you have to bust your butt to generate those same amount of traffic. And so ideally, by doing just the first part, guest blogging, you can get more value than doing it on your site. So again, if you don't have the time to fully commit, at the very least, do guest posts. And it gives you a link back and you can reference other parts of your article. Most companies and blogs will not let you link back to your site within the content unless, here's another kind of hack within this hack, is if you tell a story leveraging your company. So for example, if I want to link back to my site, I would say, at my company, this is how we do X, Y, Z, and that will be related to the article. Or, here's the results my company got or I got from doing this and this. Or for example, I did this and net resulted this. Here's an example of the article I wrote that generated this. Again, just trying to reference yourself in the story in a more natural way, and you can get traffic from it too. All right, so let's get into the real ROI of content marketing. First and foremost, it helps you increase trust with your audience, your potential customers. Second, it helps you build your brand and increase your exposure. So what does that mean? If that blog post I did for Content Marketing Institute, people read it. They are familiar with my brand. I've built maybe if I did it 4 or 5 times over again, I'll build enough to where they can remember my name. And then if I do it consistently and continue to do that, what will happen is I will become an authority in that space, and they will not just remember my name, they'll associate with me as the expert of X, right? And X replace my industry as content marketing. Replace that with fish, pets, small businesses, whatever that is, it doesn't matter. You can leverage the exact same thing. And what my favorite part of content marketing, the ROI, is it actually generates sales. Why? Because you're not actually selling anything. You're just giving value. And when you give value, you just continue to drive traffic with value. People are going to get curious and like, hey, what do these guys do? If you're in the B2B space, it works incredibly well because it builds so much trust that they're looking now to purchase from you. They're asking themselves, what do these guys sell? They're kind of getting closer to the purchase decision without even seeing your product. And trust me, it happens. People have, last year when and I'm putting together a case study for this, by the way, when I looked at a lot of people contacting me, they asked me like, hey, I don't know what you do even, but like, I could use your help. Can you tell me what you do and how you could help me? And it's just like, they're just super vague and they didn't know. They wanted me to fill in the blanks, but they were ready to like talk to me about it. Obviously, it increases your traffic and it improves your SEO. Evergreen traffic is the key to great content marketing. You're leveraging existing demand for a question, a topic, and just being there. And it's one of the best ways to do it. In fact, most of the ROI I've gained has come from evergreen traffic. All right. And guess what? Content marketing can actually land you on TV and radio interviews and podcast interviews. This is actually a screenshot of me on MSNBC talking about Snapchat in early 2015. This is how I felt the whole time I was on TV. I was wearing makeup, super weird. And anyways, this is my facial, or at least how I felt on the inside during my 15 minutes of fame. But how did this happen? I wrote an article on small biz trends, not even a huge site, on how small businesses could leverage Snapchat. Guess why I was writing about small businesses? Because I was building up the When I Work blog. Who did they target? Small businesses. What did it do for our brands? It got us on TV and it got us a new exposure. Was the ROI of TV worth it? Radio interviews worth it? That's another question. But hey, look, it took me 20 minutes to do a radio interview. Why not? It's free press. All right, so today's agenda, finally going to get into the meat of this. Talk about the metrics that matter, what to write about, so content ideation, content creation, the actual process of creating content, how to stand out, and content promotion. So let's jump straight into it. Metrics that matter, look, here's my take on this. Forget the complicated or overthinking this. Focus on the 4 or 5 things that actually matter. 4 or 5 things that move 80, 90% of this needle. Visitors. Without that, you got nothing. Mentions and links. Why? The more times your brand is referenced using content, the more SEO value you're getting, but also the more exposure and the brand you're getting, the trust. So repetition is the key with building a brand and exposure. So you want to measure how many times that's happening. Links, because it's going to help your SEO value. It's going to help you boost your domain authority and also rank your content evergreen traffic and get that evergreen traffic. The third metric is shares and engagement. What's an engagement? A comment. Somebody subscribing to your email opt-in, email list, your newsletter. Why shares? Because if no one's sharing your content, it's probably not getting traffic and as many links. You're not getting that's the input metric to how you get those outputs of traffic and links. Email opt-in is also a separate one because it's so powerful. You can continue to nurture your list to getting them closer and closer to that sale or purchase decision. And lastly, but not least, conversion sales. I mean, ultimately, that's the goal, right? So measure against these 5 things. That's what matters. And when you're looking at traffic, pay attention to time on site, bounce rate. It's really high. If it's coming from mobile, figure out how to do that, right? Like I had a company that was like getting half their traffic from mobile, and they're wondering why their traffic wasn't converting. Well, it wasn't converting because when you went on your mobile phone and you try to purchase, this was a company, a SaaS business, a B2B space. No one's going to purchase on their phone for that industry. And 2, there was like 7-question form to try to get a mobile visitor to convert. No one's going to fill that out on their phone. Make it 3, and guess what? What happens? You have less friction, and you can potentially get some ROI from that traffic. All right, so now let's talk about what to actually write about. This is where everybody gets it wrong. Remember, we talked about it already. It's not about you. It's not about what you want to write about. It's not your company. It's not about you. It's about your audience. It's about your users and providing something of value. So first and foremost, conduct keyword research to make sure there's actually enough volume for this, especially if you're going to leverage the evergreen kind of evergreen approach. And if you're not, I don't know why you wouldn't. So just do the keyword research. Just amuse me for a minute. Do the keyword research, and what you'll do and what you'll get is, relatively speaking, against the other keywords you look up, how popular a topic is. Let's say one keyword you're looking up has let's say I'm going to go into small business. One topic is managing millennials. The other one is something else on managing employees. If you look at the keyword managing millennials versus managing employees, I can tell you because I've done this keyword research, millennials is through the roof. Why? It's a hot topic. Write about millennials. Don't write about managing employees. I mean, it's the same topic essentially, but like the angle is different, right? Next thing is write about a popular topic, right? Millennials. Millennials not only has more search volume versus managing employees, but it's more popular. It's more trendy. Go on Google Trends. Look up at millennials right now. You'll just see it through the roof. Look at BuzzSumo. BuzzSumo is a tool to see popular content. Best thing to do on BuzzSumo and Google Trends is to use the shortest possible keywords, or look up existing popular articles to see, or blogs, to see how many shares they have and traffic and where it's coming from. You won't necessarily see too much information on the traffic, but you'll see it's coming from Facebook, it's coming from this and that. And it's just good to do your reconnaissance and research on these topics before you write a single word. This is almost like pre-validation of the topic, right? And here's a hint. If you're just starting off and you don't have your own thoughts, cool, that's okay. Everybody has to start somewhere. Write on a topic that's done well before. Make it better. That's all you have to do. So with that team building games example I said earlier for wheniwork.com, that generated so much traffic, 1.2 million since it's been out. What do? We literally wrote on something that's already been out and that ranks well, that gets traffic, all of these things. I wouldn't consider that a popular topic, but we use the skyscraper technique. It's from Brian Dean, and I'll get into the promotion later, but we just wrote something that's better with just information and more up to date than the last thing that's out there. What you create versus what's out there, the bigger the difference there, the more value and the easier it's going to be to promote. If you're too close, unfortunately, if it's too close, who cares? Why would you do something that's not significantly better than what's out there? And remember, being more up to date is also better. So don't forget about that. And so focus on this epic content. Again, look into more skyscraper technique. In fact, if I were to do it again, I would only use the skyscraper technique. All right, now let's talk about how to stand out. We talked about epic content, 10x content a bit, but really, really, I want to get really deep into 10x content. Again, the definition of 10x content is that 10x content is something that is 10x better than what else is out there. Simple. Now, you don't always have to be 10x. You could be 2, 3x, 5x, 7x, whatever, even more if you want to, but you want to be significantly better than what's out there. So in order to do this, there's 6 key ingredients to this. First, do your competitive analysis. Look up what's out there. Figure out what's out there. Figure out what they did to promote it. Use BuzzSumo, use Ahrefs, use SEMrush, whatever tools you can muster, and look up how they got the traffic, where they got the traffic from. I use Open Site Explorer to see how many links they have, where they got the links from. If I'm writing a 10x piece of content, you can be sure I'm going to reach out to people that wrote those articles, that linked to them. The next thing is to identify the unique value you're going to provide. If you cannot come up with this hook, if you can't come up with number 2, if you don't know what's going to be unique about your article versus what's out there, you should just stop. Move on. It's not going to be 10x content. So it's very important that you actually figure out what's that unique angle. And remember, let's say your topic is like on 100 ways to do something. Well, make sure there wasn't a 95 ways. If there was a 95 ways to do something, then you're not really that much better. But if you can get your 100 ways from combining maybe 5, 6 articles and from 10, 15, 20 ways, you're unique because you are a one-stop shop. So I don't want to make it seem like it's super hard. In fact, that's not that hard, combining 4 or 5 articles and just putting it in one place. Being the source and one place, one-stop shop is unique. The next thing is, remember that if you're creating 10x content, it requires time of the reader. Meaning, who wants to sit there and read for 20 minutes? I don't know the last time I read for 20 minutes when I wasn't on my phone on the bus or the subway or traveling. Most of the time, I'm not sitting on my computer reading this long, lengthy article. I'm in bed. I'm doing something else. So why does it matter? Because if I'm in bed and I'm your reader and I'm in bed, make sure it's mobile optimized. Make sure it looks amazing on mobile. And so if your content's going to be super long, and remember, 10x doesn't have to be super long. It's going to be super long. Make sure that you have jump points. You have a table of contents that will jump to sections. Very important, super simple thing. Break up the content with some images and make it scannable and things like that. The next thing, number 4, is the mobile and social experiences need to be outstanding. What does that mean? I've already talked about mobile, right? Make sure people can read the damn thing on mobile. If they can't, put a pop-up or a block that gates the content on mobile devices saying, sorry, this is not optimized for mobile. Leave your email and I'll email you a link to something or something of that nature, because you don't want a shitty experience. And most of the time you won't have this problem, but it's something to think about. Social experience, right? Add those Twitter card tags and enrich your blog post so that when you share it on Facebook, automatically an image shows up. And it'd be awesome if this is easy, if the image that you share on Facebook is optimized for those users, meaning it's relative to what they would read. It's blue. It matches the Facebook experience. So make sure that's outstanding. Simple thing is make sure if you ever clicked a tweet or let's say the share buttons, Well, one, make sure they're easy to use, and two, look at the default text that shares. If it's shitty, if it says your blog post title and then your whole company name, nobody cares. Make sure it says your Twitter handle on a tweet, and not your whole company name with the, make that optimized. Number 5 is don't try to be viral. Just don't. Why? Because you won't be viral. You just won't. You might get lucky and potentially get lucky and be viral. Chewbacca Mom didn't do this to be viral. Like, if you look at all the viral studies of content that's become viral, most of the time it was accidentally done or luck. And, I wouldn't bet on luck when you're investing in content marketing. And the last thing is make sure you properly staff your team. Content marketing takes time. Like, these 6 steps alone, I mean, they're going to take some time. You might need an editor. You're going to definitely need a writer. That might be you. You're going to need a content promoter or somebody that's going to do all the outreach. You might need somebody to manage your email or your advertising and things like that. So just make sure you understand that it's going to take some people on your team. Even if it's one person, they're going to have different roles throughout the process. All right. So here's my favorite part of content marketing. It's content promotion. Why? It's because without content promotion, without other people seeing your content, it's going to go nowhere. No one's going to see it. It's not going to do anything else. It's not going to provide ROI or any of that other good stuff. So how do you promote content? There's hundreds of ways to promote content. In fact, I wrote an article on 100 ways to promote content. Check it out. Just Google it. But there's 5 ways I want to share with you. There's 5 awesome ways that don't break bank, don't take forever, and actually work well. First and foremost is leveraging influencers. You want to quote them or cite them. Why? 1, because it helps your content be more authoritative. If you're writing on content marketing and you were to quote me saying something on content marketing, I'm helping you prove your point. You associating me with your point makes you more credible. So it adds credibility. Number 2, people don't know you, but they may know me, and they may share something I had to say. So a click to tweet or like sharing quotes is awesome because people might share an article because an influencer said something interesting in there. So that's number 2. And the third thing is it's a reason to reach out to them. You can build a relationship with this influencer by making them look good. If you've mentioned me in an article, and this is not about me, remember, it's not about you either, but I'm giving you as an example. If you mention me in an article on content marketing and you grab a quote from something I said in a previous article and you email me saying, hey, big fan of your work, maybe something a little better than this, big fan of your work, but I reference you in my latest article, would love to know what you think, or if you can help me, spread the word. I'd click on it, look at it. If it was decent looking, I would essentially share it. I would maybe even do more, but I would be flattered, and I would think positively of that person that did this. Now, it's being more and more abused with expert roundup, so definitely don't do an expert roundup or abuse this. But my general rule of thumb with influencers is to mention at least 3 to 5, sprinkle them throughout the article, and it also helps you break up that content, those sections, and whatnot. So with long form content, this is where you can kind of sprinkle them throughout the thing. And remember, it's about building a long-term relationship with that influencer. I did this last year, a lot of this last year, and it worked well. And what I did is I focused on building a long-term relationship. After I mentioned somebody once or twice, what I did was I invited them to my Slack group and I said, hey, like, just a bunch of marketers, we all talk about marketing, we help each other with marketing. And so it was super relevant to all the marketers I talked to. And so I kept that communication. I continue to add value to them. But remember, when you're doing this, you don't always have to get a unique quote. You can grab something they said online. So it's super easy to grab something because they probably already said something. If they're an influencer, you can bet that there's content out there that they've written already, and you can grab a sentence from there and bam, not have to waste your time. and wait for them. Number 2 is email your list. Well, if you don't have a list, build one. Build it fast. My favorite tools, Welcome Mat. Sumo Me, Welcome Mat is in your face, but it's effective. It's a Welcome Mat is when you go to a blog or a website and it's a full screen takeover. You know, it usually asks for your email address or forces you to click somewhere. You can obviously like scroll out of it, but I found it to be the most impactful. And I usually just put my one-line header of like, sign up for my newsletter for more tips on blah, blah, and blah. So like tip 1, tip 2, tip 3 generally works pretty well. Then you can kind of optimize it from there. If you want to use exit intent, Marketizator has a good exit intent, opt-in monster. There's so many different tools out there. And content upgrades. Content upgrades is a great way to build your list of loyal people. Although they might not convert as well as a Welcome Mat, but the people that convert using a content upgrade will be much more loyal. Click-through rates, open rates are much higher with those types of people because they care more about your content. And content upgrade is what that is simply, let's say you have an article, making a PDF version of it, adding a little, like a headline, a one page, like it's a PDF version. The first page is, let's say, a well-designed header. You don't have resources to design an awesome header, go on Canva. Simply create one PDF, add your customized text. You can create some very beautiful looking things just using Canva alone. Create a little header, put that on every single page or a footer, and bam, you have a decent looking PDF, which then on that blog post, you say, click here to download the PDF version of this. Or, you could also do it with checklists and other things like that. But you can use the same content in PDF form and get an email address. Same exact thing. So you're pretty much double dipping on the content and getting more value from it. All right, this is number 3 tactic. We're here, number 3 here is Facebook ads. This is one of my favorite tactics. I'm actually saying you should pay money. In fact, I don't know if you can see it, but Mark behind us is launching some Facebook ads while we're talking here. But anyways, Facebook ads, you can use Taboola, Outbrains, and Manta. What I'm talking about here is launching ads to promote your content. This will help you with is just helping get the word out initially. It will help you just get that spark, that light. The content will be the fire, the fuel, but this will just be the spark to help you get out there. What I found is I usually spend $5 to $10 a day for anywhere between 5 and 10 days. So $25 to $100 max. And it helps just get a few dozen shares, maybe even a few hundred, depending on how well it does. And what it also does is it forces you to write short, compelling headlines. Your ad text there on your Facebook ads, if your click-through rate sucks, well, either you have a boring topic or you have shitty ad text. Well, if you have shitty ad text, your headline's probably crappy too on your article. So it'll force you to get better at writing headlines. And headlines are very, very important. Upworthy, you guys probably know, everybody here knows what Upworthy is. Upworthy, what they do is they write 25 headlines for every article. And they test it. And a lot of this is just like the sniff test amongst the editors. But you only get better at writing headlines by writing more headlines. So it works. And Facebook ads is a quick way to do it. And it'll just get the word out. Then combine that with emailing your list and influencers, and bam, you have 2 or 3 different ways. In fact, I will never write a piece of content, and some people may have heard me say this before, unless I have at least 3 to 5 ways I'm going to promote it that I know are going to get some value. Otherwise, it's just, why create content that no one's going to see? It's just wasting money, wasting time and effort. So, all right, number 4 tactic is to use mixed media. What is mixed media? Images, video, click-to-tweet, embeddable tweets, embedding Instagram pictures, anything that makes or breaks up the content with something visual, because it's boring to read a 5,000-word article without any text. That's like reading a textbook. I mean, look, it might be the most fascinating thing, but like at a glance, when your brain just does a 10 or 2-second like glance at the article, if it's just text and it's just a white background with black text, that's a lot to absorb. Yeah, I might get overwhelmed and come back later. Either way, I've just left, which sucks. So images, video, click to tweets, embeddable tweets, embedding Instagram images work really, really well. We have a client that's in the recreation space, like camping, RVs, stuff like that. We embed a lot of Instagram pictures. We talk about all the places you can go camping and all that stuff. And why show our own pictures? Why would we buy stock photos? What we did instead was we created, we just went on Instagram and looked at hashtags up of some popular destination that found some really amazing pictures. We gave credit to the person who took the photo, but you can see a picture of Yosemite. If you Google Yosemite, you can see a picture from people really in Yosemite National Park when you go to Instagram and you look up the hashtag Yosemite. It is amazing the kind of pictures you get. And they're freaking, these are some professional grade, real life action shots. It just makes you feel like this is a real article. This is real information and more relevant to my audience. All right. I've talked a lot here about content promotion. I'll leave you with one more tip, is to share content with those who have shared something similar in the past. So what I do is I go to BuzzSumo, just as I did when I'm thinking about what to write about. I go to BuzzSumo again. I look up my title or keyword and or my kind of broader key phrase of my article, not the headline, but something that describes what the article is about. And I see what else has been written about, and I'll see who shared that article or who has linked to that article, and I'll reach out to them. Now, when you look at who shared the article, one thing to keep in mind is don't just reach out to everybody who shared it. Reach out to people that have shared it and have a big following, but not too big. So when you go in BuzzSumo, when you look at view shares, you can organize by Twitter followers. Take off the top, anyone with more than 20,000 followers, and take off anyone under 2,000-3,000 followers. If those numbers are give you like only a few dozen people or maybe 5 people, make the numbers more spread out, higher and lower, or just lower. What I'm getting at is typically people with lots of following, they don't have time. They're not going to share your content. They're too busy. Well, they'll likely will lose it in their Twitter feed or social media feed, or they're, again, too busy. They're never going to share it. The people who have less than a few thousand followers, they're not going to be meaningful enough traffic to be worth the effort. So get the meat in the middle, and the people in the middle you'll find are the people who are more passionate about it, who are probably in your shoes, and it'll help you. They might even be influencers, so it'll help you do number one as well. Tactic number one. All right. Now, a quick quote. Create less, promote more. At the end of the day, it's not about creating dozens of articles a month or even dozens of articles a year. It's about leveraging content to market your business, to market your brand. And that doesn't necessarily mean more content. It means better content. It means more promotion. It means more resources. It may even mean more advertising dollars for Facebook ads. But it definitely doesn't mean more content. And don't create more content unless you figured out how to get one content working and you've promoted the heck out of it and it's starting to work. Create the other one. And you got that down, create it again. So go from one article first, get it locked down, then say, okay, I'm going to do one a month. Then I'm going to do 2 a month. That's about it. You don't really need more than that. Unless you're a consumer-facing brand, and if you're in the B2C space and you're an online publisher, that advice doesn't work for you. Otherwise, everyone else should be only creating a few pieces of content a month. One more thing. Recycle content. How? One, take a content piece that did really well last year or 6 months ago or the quarter before. Update it with some more information. Maybe add some click to tweets. Maybe embed some Instagram images or quote some people, influencers, and re-release it as a new piece of content. Maybe add a new section, remove a section, whatever it may be. Maybe you just kind of trim down the article and made it more to the point. Maybe you add a table of contents, whatever it is. Bam. new people that you have today didn't see it 6 months ago. So it's an article that you can leverage. Number two is recycling. You could repurpose. LinkedIn and Medium are great places to republish the exact content you publish on your blog to a new audience. Why LinkedIn? If you're in the B2B space, why not have all your professional contacts see it? Number three is different formats. SlideShare, YouTube. If you look at my YouTube feed, youtube.com/ScubaSuj, SCUBASEWJ. You'll see a lot of videos I've created. They're anywhere between like 2 minutes to 10 minutes long. A lot of this is all similar stuff to what I wrote about last year or earlier this year, or my best content. Why am I doing videos on it? Because people understand things differently. You may be on this course and want to get better at growth and content. Other people may not want to have that same result, and they want to just know it, so that I don't need to go in depth. Or maybe people learn when they hear somebody talk, when you see me animate myself. Why do I record videos? What's the ROI for me? One, when you see me move and I'm like super passionate, you can see the emotion in my face, me smiling. It shows without me saying anything that I give a crap, that I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about the topic I'm writing about. And so there's value there. SlideShare is great. It's a whole another social network. Usually every time I present, I publish the slides on SlideShare. I make sure all my friends share it and whatnot. Why? Because it gets in front of that network and gets you exposure to thousands and well, actually millions of people, but generally results in thousands of views without much work. All right, guys, that's me. We'll open it up to questions now.
Yeah, that was awesome. What a great presentation. I feel like I learned a ton from watching that, so thank you. Okay, great. So yeah, I wrote down some questions. I'm just going to flip over to Evernote. The first thing that I had a question about was, you've outlined great ways to find out like what matters to people, right? And that you should build content around those so that people actually care about what you're writing. But how do you make sure that those people are actually your potential customers and not just tire kickers? Or does it not really matter as long as they're kind of like generally in the ancillary space and you cast a wide net?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that's one people kind of forget about. They always, like you mentioned earlier, the question started with, how do you know they're your target customers? Most of the time with content marketing, they're not your target customers. Okay. They're probably not even ever going to purchase from you. So there's kind of three layers I like to think about, and I kind of put it this way: 3 layers of your customers. There's one, it's people will never buy from you, but they're semi-interested in the topic. They're not passionate. They're not even like in the industry. They're just kind of interested. Okay. And then there's the second people who they may not be your persona of a customer, but they're passionate about that topic. Those 2 categories are the people that are going to come first. That means the first couple months of your content marketing efforts, or usually the first year of your business, you're going to get a lot more of those people than you are of your customers, and that's okay. There are your megaphones. What I mean by megaphones, these are the people who are going to be loyal to your brand, who are going to ask you questions, they're going to engage, they're going to share, they're going to help you get the word out. And you still need that. Okay. Then there's obviously the third part is your ideal customer, who is actually going to, who's right for your business. And it kind of goes back into, how do you do that? It's the ideation. You can promote all day long. You can do everything after you've published or written an article, but none of that's going to change. None of that's going to change how you target your customers. What I mean by this is, you really need to understand your customers and where they're at, and really understand their pain points. So there's an exercise I like to do. There's a template from HubSpot called the customer persona template. And it's like this PowerPoint, like slides. It asks you some pretty hard questions, like, what do my customers do at night? And like, what's my customers' problems? Like, obviously, how old are they? All that kind of crap. That's basic stuff. But like, what do they do at night? What are they thinking when they're not working? Like, that's the kind of stuff you need to know. And like, what are their problems? What do they have? Like, what's their biggest hurdle for their job, right? Like, if you know that, all you have to do is write a solution for that. And that's why my first kind of slides I talked about when I work, our customers are small business owners. and they had problems hiring employees and managing employees, and like our tools and resources work the best because we help them solve a specific problem with what they needed now. Like I think somebody was like firing an employee. It's like, what do I do to fire an employee? What documentation do I need to have? Like you don't know that. You don't know that. So like, why not just solve that? And that's kind of how we got closer to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's really useful. I'm going to add that for each lesson, there's a practical exercise that we're doing. The one that I built is actually on Skyscraper. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'm going to throw in that HubSpot one too, because I think that's the value optimization piece is where a lot of people miss, because it's really hard to read the label when you're inside the jar, so to speak, right?
Yep.
So then the next question I had is like, how do you test to make sure that your content is truly about other people? Because that's something that you've mentioned a couple of times, and you said in about 3 months that didn't get into it. Like, is there some sort of a litmus test to make sure that like you're not talking about yourself, or you're not bragging, and that this is actually really serving a purpose for other people?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to have I typically find the content promotion piece is done by somebody else that's not the writer, or it's done by like that's where the content exchanges hands to hand it off to the marketing team to do their thing. Mm-hmm. And that when you get them involved in the ideation phase, so you can validate, okay, well, how are we going to create this thing to not be about us? And the question is, when you come up with, when you also ask yourself, like, how do I promote this article? If it's all about you, that's not going to be promotable. And kind of there's different types of content you can create. There's kind of 5 categories, and I might not have them off the top of my head, but like there's SEO driven, customer driven, meaning it's targeting your existing customers, ideal customer. And there's one that's like an update, or you can be telling a story, and the last one is like it's about you. And reality is, the one that's about you will never be the other ones. It will never be promotable. It will not be an SEO driven one. Like, so yeah, unless you're HubSpot and it's about you, well, I mean, you already rank for your name, and like it's not going to be SEO driven if you're you're writing about it yourself.
Okay. Cool. That's good to know. Okay. Here's one, and this might actually be tied to your tools too, which would be good to talk about really quick. But you mentioned that one of the first ways to promote content is to mention influencers, right? So how do we actually go about finding the right influencers to mention in a post? And you mentioned that you could say like, maybe 2 to 3 within a long form blog post, but like, what would that be? Like, how would you actually go about finding those 2 to 3 influencers for that specific topic?
It's simple. Google it. So go, like, seriously, it sounds really silly. Go on Google and type in, whatever, and you'll like top X experts. Insert a keyword, and you'll find experts, because so many people have done expert roundups on like everything, or the top blog. You might find the top blogs on X, right? So find those top blogs and see who writes for them most frequently, and bam, you have influencers. Okay. One thing that's really important to note here, let's say you're in the pet industry, right? Let's just say that's the company you have, is you got to write about pets. I mean, that's you're selling pet food, and so you're targeting pet owners. But the influencers, there's no influencers in pets. I mean, there might be, right? There might be a few dozen people, but that's like really hard. You're going to run out of people. Think about animal lovers. Go step back a couple of layers. Yeah. You know what? Who's influencers? The people, actually, they're on Instagram a lot. I love following them. National Geographic photographers are influencers who are going out there and taking photos in brutally like cold weather, like of polar bears, right? That's a freaking passionate person. And if you look at their Instagram following, it's huge because they share all their photos. But anyways, so just peel back a couple layers to think about animals. Okay, like wildlife. Like think about like all those kind of things, and you'll find influencers. And typically, if you can't find influencers, your topic is too kind of specific. Okay, and that's okay too, because not every single one needs to leverage that tactic. But generally speaking, try to peel back layers and step back further and further away from the topic and your industry.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. And then do you ever use other writers, or do you write everything yourself? What are your thoughts on, like, let's say that I'm just really not that great. I mean, you mentioned the whole thing with YouTube in one of your presentations at one point where you used to have people transcribe for you.
Yeah, still do. I suck at writing. I suck at writing. Well, I got better at it. I suck at writing from scratch. Like, if you put a blank Word doc in front of me or a blank notebook, and it's just a little blinking line, I don't know what to do. Like, I just get lost. And so I started talking, right? So that's one way, right? It was a personal journey I went through. Still do it. I'm effective using it. But yes, you can hire writers. You should hire writers. Use ghostwriters if you need to. If it needs to come from you, you can use ghostwriters. I don't recommend it early on because you and the ghostwriter are never going to be like jiving 100%. And you are going to, as a busy CEO, the growth guy or girl or like, founder, you're going to want to hand it off. And it's not ready to be handed off. A ghostwriter and handing it off immediately would be just writing a blog post. It's not right. It's not doing content marketing. So if you do hire a ghostwriter, make sure you come up with the topics or do it together, and you write an outline and add in call to actions. Make sure that when it's outlined, you have the promotion angle down. So it's very important. And the best place to find bloggers is ProBloggers Job Board. Used it since it came out, I think 2007. And it's an amazing place to find some great bloggers for almost every industry.
That's great. I'm going to document all these links and all these tools you talked about too.
Cool.
Into a certain section, so I'll share that with you. By the way, can you hear that loud like thumping noise every now and again? Okay, there's a gym downstairs, so the whole floor shakes. So I just wondered if that was coming across.
Nope, can't hear it.
So, okay, so you also mentioned, so another thing is like, you mentioned getting onto TV, right? And being able to write for Forbes and stuff like that. How do you go about actually getting on bigger networks? Do you do cold outreach to them? Do you reach out to them, or do you just kind of wait for them to find you? Do you have somebody else recommend you?
Yeah, so before I answer that question, you should figure out who are the big fish and big dogs in your field. Whatever industry you're in, you should, like, when you start off with content marketing, make a list of all the top influencers, the top 20, 30, 50 people, and the top blogs and publications. And you want to be able to get to those. You want to be able to write on those. Now, there's one more part to this. There's the sexy, and then there's the impactful. The sexy is the Forbes, the Entrepreneur, the Incs, Fortune. Just keep inserting any Washington Post, anything you've ever seen on TV, like old school media publications, right? They will never do anything. Well, not never. They will likely not help you out more than just a logo saying as featured on or like included in or whatever.
Yep.
The ones that help you the most are the ones that are relevant and have a reach because they're relevant. The big ones, unless you're in the entrepreneur space, you're in the general business category, and it doesn't really do much. I mean, trust me from experience. Why I do it, this is like, I have a bigger goal of like, I'm leveraging it to build my personal brand, helping me be a more recognizable founder, speaking engagements and things like that. So there's kind of some value there, but I would never say go after those big sites. To answer your question directly, they're not going to come to you. You got to go to them. Okay. You got to go out, do outreach. I have an awesome article. I will, I'll send you a link to it. It pretty much goes through the whole, gambit. It's like a 20-minute video with the long article that goes through how to exactly do it step by step.
Okay, cool. To reach out. Okay, got it. Thank you. And then, so I'm coming to the end of my questions here, but one thing is, so guest blogging. You mentioned that that's really impactful. What happens if I don't have a whole lot of customers yet? And because I guess guest blogging usually seems to me like it's kind of like I'll do something for you if you do something for me. So how would you actually start with guest blogging if you're a very early stage startup and you don't have a whole lot to offer?
Yeah. It's a tough one for early stage startups, but it's not as actually tough as you think. So it's not about a two-way street with guest blogging.
Okay.
Usually it's a one-way street. Usually it's not you're swapping off guest posts.
Okay.
And in the link I'm going to share with you, and that you'll, again, like this is kind of a whole 30-minute exercise of like how to get guest posts. But most of them you're providing value by helping, right, produce content for that audience. And as a result, they get more traffic and blah, blah, blah. And as a result of that, you get your brand and traffic yourself. But why I'm saying this is that it's not important that you have a blog. If you don't have the time to put a blog, just don't have an empty blog. Just don't have anything, right?
Don't have one. Yeah.
But make yourself look amazing. Like puff your chest. This is like why startup. That's why design and UX matters so much. UX and your product is completely different. But I'm saying your website, making it look like a big company is very, very important. And that's not necessarily done by more content or having a blog. It's just by having aesthetically appeasing site, or like this is where, like, when you get mentioned on Forbes, this is where PR kicks in. PR generally gets you a lot of buzz and traffic for the wrong people, but it gives you logos and credibility. So if you have that credibility, you can, that's what can get you at these guest posts. The other thing is, you don't need a blog post. You need one piece of content. You need a content upgrade, a PDF, an ebook, or HTML, like a guide or something that you can offer people that is also well designed, and it's a content piece. And you can say, hey, like, this is my background. This kind of makes me authoritative in the space or whatnot. Okay. All you really need is one opportunity to get your foot in the door at one guest post. And then you can use that guest post to the next one and the next one and the next one. And the trick is to work your way bottom up. So the smallest, crappiest, most irrelevant site all the way up to the most relevant site and the best, most highest traffic. The bigger the brand you have, or the more credibility, the higher up you can start.
Okay, cool. And then you mentioned epic content, which totally makes sense. I think that it's a little bit of a catch-22 sometimes too, because like you want to make sure that everything's perfect, right? So especially for early stage content creators, like when I was doing my first free course, like it was a little bit of a hard thing for me to actually even release it, because I was like, well, it's not perfect, but the content's good, but it doesn't look great. How have you personally gotten over that hump of like realizing that, you know what, it's not going to be perfect, but like it's good right now? How do you litmus test things before to see like, is this really epic content before really going into like full-fledged promotions?
Yeah. So there's kind of two ways I do this. First and foremost is I look at my traffic monthly. I mean, daily, I'm obsessed with it, but like monthly and quarterly and annually. And I look at what has performed the best. Before you invest in new content that's 10X, go make your old content 10X. Go take your past content, because guess what? You've already validated it. It's already gotten if it's gotten traffic, good. It's gonna, if it's getting some more traffic, just keep making it better, or take some time and go make it much better. The other way is to create a new piece of content with the intention of making it 10X at some point in the future. So you're pretty much, it's almost the same exact thing as tip one, except you're doing it for future articles. And so you can always, I like to create living content that's not constantly updated, but updated frequently, so it's still relevant, right? So it works so much better than old content, because all the traffic is going into one URL. You can control it. It's like the funnel is just one thing, and then as you update it, it gets better and better. So that you keep adding value. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a really good. Good thing to practice. The last question is scuba Suj. Are you a scuba diver?
I'm not.
Okay.
I got the name. Like back in high school when the movie Big Daddy came out. There was this guy named Scuba Steve. Yep. Yeah. I got Scuba Suj because no one can say Sujan, and everyone butchered it, and it got really annoying. So I went by Scuba, and I just kind of stuck with it.
That's great. I love it. All right, cool. Well, hey, thank you so much. This is really, really awesome. And I think that's about it. I'm gonna do the write-up. I'll share it with you. I'm gonna include all of your tools in there as well.
Cool.
So if there's anything that you want to add in about those tools, they're awesome. I've been using Connector actually. I like it a lot. So good stuff, man. Thank you.